Um, well, I think there were a number of things. It obviously one became three quickly, and that's really difficult. I think there's a few things. On the first one, obviously, there's, the player gets the ball 50 yards from goal, and Z needs to address him. We allow him to dribble, accompanied all the way down, for their second goal, accompanied into the penalty box, and again, we have opportunities to address the ball, to defend the ball, and I think that was, for about 7 or 8 minutes, for whatever reason, the focus and the intensity and the willingness to compete evaporated, and that started it. And again, there was another one where it's a little bit of a transition, but even the response in and around the box, again, to now help with the second ball, the recovery of the other players, it's concerning. On an individual level, there were some things that were certainly questionable, but that 7-8 minute period, certainly proved fatal. Obviously, giving up 3 goals and making it 4-1, and the guys, certainly came back into it in the second half after we gave up another one. But it's tough to overcome 5 goals at home, and in a pretty, disappointing manner, because we got back into the game after the first goal and had a pretty good control of that next 15, 20 minutes. And the idea of what we thought the game would look like, it was pretty much there. But there were a little bit of transition, but again, we had bodies there and numbers there, and it comes down to defending and being responsible, and obviously getting compact, and we lost our way and got punished.
They did respond in the second half, scored a couple of goals there, once down 5-1. I mean, is that something you take as a positive, or is it disappointing that it kind of goes until 5-1?
Well, yeah, it's going to be tough to find positives in that. But obviously, it's good to see them put it together and obviously compete and more in the second half. And again, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. The first thing is, it's a derby. You got to come out prepared mentally and physically for what that's going to look like to compete. We gave up, a silly one right at the beginning, building up from goalkeeper. We talk constantly about, beginning of the game, put it down, see what the opponent's doing, push out, play long, and now you have a reference point. So, we can be a little bit more clever with what we're doing, but that was pretty needless on our part as well. We made mistakes. So, certainly a number of them from an individual standpoint, small little collective moments. But some of the reactions in and around the penalty box, we're going to obviously have to take a real look at, and we've talked to the guys about it already. It's very disappointing.
Thank you, Josh. Next up, Eric Goodman with the Chronicle. Go ahead.
Yeah, Josh, on that first goal again, did that maybe set a tone for you guys in the back that kind of snowballed into a mistake that started with that one? And then from your bench, you kind of just touched on it, but as you could see that play kind of performing, did you feel like that was not an opportunity or not a good idea to play out of the back in that moment?
Well, I think it was certainly a difficult moment. We overcame it, got a goal of our own, and played our way into it pretty well. I mean, we have an understanding of how the opponent's going to press. We talk about, obviously, taking a look at it to see what it looks like, to see if it's what we expected it to be, what we prepared for. And, the option for us is take a peek, push out, play long, use it as reference. We played out twice, and it was, certainly it was challenging. But, again, I think it's something that we're familiar with and we've dealt with. But, again, it's a derby game. It's the first 5 minutes of a game. It's okay to push out and play long. And that's, again, for us as a group, we've talked about that, and we've worked on these things quite a bit. Setting a tone, I don't think so. Obviously, we took the goal, and then, again, I think we settled in a decent way over the next 15, 20 minutes, put them under a good bit of pressure, created a number of chances, and even before the goal, before this 7-minute period, we have Cecilio down the middle, and we're in a position to take 2-1, even other opportunities to take 2-1. But we gave up one, and it was a little bit, the focus was gone, the intensity was gone, and a little bit of feeling sorry for ourselves. But you gotta get right back up and compete, man. It's a grind. It's a professional game, and we have to match that in the next, goals follow goals, and we didn't react the right way, and we got punished for it. And there's some really poor reactions on the field after the, certainly some of the breakdowns, and again, that'll be addressed, and we can't have players on the field reacting that way. And, again, they brushed themselves off in the second half. We got back into it, but it was going to be challenging down 3, down 4.
Thank you, Josh. Next up, Chris Bills with the Statesman. Sorry, Spiker.
Thanks, Laura. Josh, I guess with, Ricardo Pepe's been in the spotlight, obviously. I know you guys know who he is and what he's capable of, but I guess how do you explain or what did you see there that allowed him to get as much time and space as he did on his 2 goals?
Well, I think, obviously we gifted a first goal. I think in and around the penalty box, Julio's actually with him when he's dropping into the box. He can certainly stay right there with him. At that point, there's nobody else in the box. There's somebody on the weak side, but again, we usher the player shown down the field. John can engage this player 20 yards earlier. And, as they come into the box, obviously Matt, Julio, and Nicky are in the back line. We have Pepe coming down. Alex is a little bit late. But there's plenty of opportunity to address it. And then we have contact with the player. And, again, you give player time in the box and you let them turn and face. It's going to be challenging. And, again, we could have done much better with that play. And again, I think, they clipped one in over behind the line. Again, we had 6 guys there, so the reaction to the first ball, the reaction to the second ball wasn't good enough. And again, the focus and the intensity, we gave up a goal to make it 2-1. And obviously you're going to have adversity, but we got to respond, and we have to react in a much better way. I think that was what was most concerning. And, and it cost us, 7 minutes. We give up 3 goals.
Yeah, and then, I know we talked a lot about Alex Ring and he did a lot of good things going forward. I thought again tonight, but obviously wasn't far enough back to sort of help out on some of those moments. Does it kind of make you reassess how much you can afford to let him, play that forward role and maybe work with Pochettino, or, how are you sort of processing in this moment what the midfield looked like tonight?
Yeah, I think, again, I think there can be more responsibility when we have it. Obviously, when we transition of how, again, in advance of, the final action of them scoring goals. Again, I think there's opportunities to get to good spots. I mean, I've already watched the goals. There are people there. We're in position to deal with this. And again, Alex and Pepe, Danny can deal with, helping us out even more. They're in the penalty box. They need to have a connection. There needs to be a level of contact and intensity. So again, where Alex positions up the field is again, I think fine. It's how we can now react to losing the ball and then recover shape. And, again, in 7 minutes, we did not deal with that well. And the ball's on the sideline, so keeping it on the sideline, preventing them from coming into the middle. And, we're going to have to take a hard look at it. But, there's from the front to the back, there were, we missed opportunities to help, prevent some of these actions from happening. They're pretty poor goals from our side and how we allowed it to happen so easily.
Thanks, Josh. Next up, Gianluca.
Hey Josh, so I know that this team's struggles to score have been well documented. We talked about it a couple of times, but I know that in the grand scheme of things, not every goal scored is obviously the same. It doesn't have the same value and meaning or worth, especially when you're down 5-1. But the fact that you were able to get 3 goals, what do you think was different about, the fact that you were finally able to put some good, a string of good moves together, some good passages of play that you were able to score 3 times tonight?
Yeah. Again, I mean, we had 3, and I think we could have had more. I mean, that's the whole. Even as we gave up the first goal, when we played our way back into the first half, we had plenty of good, exactly what we expected it to look like. How we found access to the pockets. We got Cecilio in behind the line a couple times. We're getting in and around the edges to play balls in front of goal. We're putting them under pressure. We're creating corner kicks. And again, I think those things were there. And obviously the second goal affects us. And again, adversity's there. And now we gotta answer that and deal with it on the field in the moment. And that lacked. Again, we scored 3 goals. It could have been, we could have certainly scored a couple more. But it shouldn't take being down 4-1 to, 5-1 to get that going. The first half there were some opportunities. The second half, obviously we pushed forward a bit more. You're a little more exposed, but it's we're capable of scoring goals. And again, I think you've seen Portland, we put in some nice goals, obviously the way that we want to play. The Salt Lake, the Vancouver, we got one again on a set piece. So I think this team certainly has strong capabilities of scoring goals. I think you've seen that in the last few games, certainly the way that we've played and being able to attack and got access to, between lines and behind the lines and getting guys in the box. And that's how we collectively go about scoring our goals. And, tonight we missed the mark after we gave up a bad second goal and lost our way for 5-6 minutes. And we got punished. And that's what happens at the professional level. And we're going to have to address that with some of our players.
Thank you, Josh. Looks like we have time for 2 more questions. Kyle Dalton can take the next question, and Eric Goodman, go ahead and take that last question.
Hey Josh, so you mentioned intensity a couple of times, and it looked like tonight the 50-50 balls. It looked, your team is most of the season you could see that you would have the advantage on 50-50 balls, and tonight it just didn't look like it was there. What do you attribute it to, and how do you address that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, I think there's certain areas of the field where we've got to compete more and be more combative. And certainly our fullbacks get in dueling situations with wingers, our center backs with forwards. But, in midfield, throughout the field, we got to do a better job competing and certainly breaking up plays. A lot of that has to do with positioning. But, I think, again, as the half went on, there was a little, I'm not, intensity and speed. We lost our way a little bit, but I agree. There's been a couple games similar against Vancouver where we, I think I certainly talked about it then. We started losing the duels and losing the competing side, and obviously we maybe have a few deficiencies around the field from that standpoint, from a physicality, but we also have to be able to do this in a collective manner. And there's still a responsibility when players are in your area, when you're defending somebody in certainly your own space. You got to compete. You got to have contact. There's a level of intensity that's needed and physicality that's required. So we've talked about it with a few players, but again, we got to continue to work on it and talk about it, fix it.
Josh, Eric Goodman.
Josh, this team has had some really big wins, some really cathartic performances that seem to kind of, in the moment, kind of look like they have the potential to be turning points.
Yeah.
Why has it not been able to be that way? You guys haven't been able to build on one of those really emotional victories.
Yeah, it's a good point. Because again, I think the week was one that we had good expectations, good understanding what it was going to look like. Certainly a good feeling coming out of the Portland, and obviously a longer week to prepare. So, gaining momentum is critical, and putting together performances consistently back to back has outside of the very beginning of the year, it's eluded us. But that's the requirement. Every game is difficult. Every opponent is challenging, and we can't expect to roll out because our previous game we played well, we performed well, we won, and we were in front of our fans. Every game you have to come with that level of focus and organization and intensity, and look back on it in the end and figure out how easy it was or how difficult it was. But you can't in the moment miss out on the intensity, and it's a derby. So, the momentum thing is certainly something that we've talked about, but coming into it, we certainly felt like we were in a pretty good place physically and mentally, given what the performance was last time. But fell off a little bit. Certainly for 10 minutes in the first half, it did.